Hello and welcome to Made for More. I am your host, Holly J. Moore. This is where we chat about anything and everything that's going to help you show up as a better version of yourself than you showed up yesterday. Because we don't want you just to survive in your life, we want you to thrive. Today and every day, I am joined by my podcast producer, Aaron Bender.
Very good morning, Holly. How are you?
Good morning.
I
Doing
say
well.
good morning. I don't know where people are watching this. It could be the middle of the night, but either way. How are things?
Things are amazing. How are things with you?
Not bad. Not bad. I know this is our special Valentine's Day episode.
It is. Do you have any Valentine's Day plans?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I totally plan everything every time.
Of course you
yes,
do.
Way in advance.
Yes.
No, yes. Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay.
What do you recommend? Like what's a surefire get out of jail free Valentine's Day gift?
Well, here's the deal. So by the time everybody is hearing this, I will be on a jet plane on my way to basically the furthest place away I can get from my lover, drinking champagne by myself.
What? Why? How? What?
Well, because my husband is the most amazing like he should teach husband classes. He is the most amazing husband 364 days out of the year.
I'm taking notes.
But you know what he is on Valentine's Day? Total dick. Like supreme dick. And so, we've been married for 20 years. We laugh about it now.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's all about expectations, right?
Yeah.
In the early years, I was like, if he treats me this good, I mean, he treats me like an absolute queen 364 days of the year. And I'm thinking, if this is this good on all these other 364 days of the year, like Valentine's Day, I am going to wake up in a sea of rose petals. There's going to be diamonds like falling from the heavens. I mean, this is the expectation, right? Like if he's amazing on all the other days, like why would Valentine's Day not be like a step up from that? Oh, no, he goes the other way. Total dick. So, so I am really not the person to consult on, how to do a proper romantic Valentine's Day.
And apparently neither is Jeff.
Right,
yes.
and neither is Jeff. Yes, yeah, don't ask him. Yeah.
Oh, man.
We were actually talking about it, and, again, because now we just laugh about it. And truth be told, I have a business meeting, but it's like a twofer. I have a business meeting, plus I get to be way far away.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what is it? What happened? Like, are you just like rebelling against the man? Like, why, be a dick on Valentine's Day? And he reminded me, our first Valentine's Day, I had the brilliant idea to go to Disneyland. And as we are waiting in line, trying to enter the park, so this is like probably 9 a.m., he tells me, the two things I hate most in life are waiting in lines and large crowds. I'm like, oh man, this is not going to be good.
So no more Disneyland on Valentine's Day yes.
No more anything on Valentine's Day.
Oh, gosh.
But the other 364 days of the year are utterly amazing. So,
speaking of utterly amazing, our guest, Lily Shepard. Oh,
yes,
can't
Lily.
wait.
Yes. Are you ready? I mean, it could get a little racy, a little sexy.
I'm going to leave my camera on over here so the people can see me blush.
Yes,
because I know we're going to be talking about feminine movement.
We are.
And
yes.
Recapturing sexuality.
Yes, a little bit.
I don't know.
Little bit. Yes. No, still a family-friendly show. So, stay tuned. No need to turn off right now. No need to tune out.
No disclaimers here. We're fine.
Right. Still family-friendly, but so important for women out there. Like, I'm super excited to talk to Lily because I'm super fascinated by her work. It's going to be really good. Today, we are here with an utterly amazing guest, Lily Shepard. She is an author, embodiment coach, and dance educator, and the founder of Lily Shepard Moves. Hi, Lily. How are you?
I am so well and so excited to be here.
Good. I am so excited to have you. As you know, I've been fascinated with your work really since I heard about you, maybe about a year or so ago. So let's just jump right in. Like, tell us, what is your work? What do you do?
So I help women connect back to their bodies and explore what it would be like to invite pleasure into their lives. Women that are high achieving, high earning, professional women usually sacrifice some bit of that piece of their lives in order to get where they are. So I come in and give them some practice and give them some guidance around how to reconnect with their bodies and pleasure in their lives.
Okay. Um, so now everybody can see why I find this so fascinating. How I have a lot of questions. I want to unpack a lot of things you just said, but kind of how did you even start down this path of doing this type of work?
Well, I have a background in dance. I've been a dancer for all of my life. I studied at the university level, then moved to Las Vegas, where I was a performer. I was an exotic dancer. I was a dance mentor to adults and children with physical and intellectual disabilities. So there was a point in time in my life where movement, there was an intersection of all of these different arenas in which I was moving through. And that really allowed me to see what a powerful tool movement is. And so, after I went through a horrible divorce during my time in Las Vegas, and it was during that time that I started to really understand movement as healing. It just seemed like a perfect storm. I was involved in all of these different arenas where there was stage, there was sexy club movement, there was movement guidance, there was stage performance movement. And in my own personal life, I was struggling. And I had only known movement from a performance perspective as a dancer. And I got a message, a download, whatever you want to call it, but something was like just move, and it didn't say just dance, right? I think that's an important distinction
Okay.
because I only knew movement as dance and as a performance. And during that time going through my divorce, I really started to explore movement as a form of healing, and that's what led me to develop the programs that I have today and write the book and all of that.
Yeah. So, speaking of your book, this is the book, Pleasure Principles for Driven Women. And this book is tiny but mighty. I've read it twice. And as you can see, it's like, I marked this book up like I was studying for like a history exam or something. I've got highlights, I've got notes. But I recall at the beginning of the book, you talk about, you were doing this exotic dancing in Vegas at the highest end clubs, and you had been a dancer all your life. And I think you say in the book how you, even though you were able to move your body in a way that was, looked pleasing to others, to men, to whatever, like that really wasn't the thing. Like at that time, you sort of felt disconnected from your body. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. And I think that speaks to women, how we're socialized to just be performative. This is an
Yeah.
extreme level of, okay, I'm in a strip club and my job is to look sexy and enticing and inviting. And I felt absolutely none of those things at the time. But I think that a lot of us go through life in performance mode. And really, we are not feeling inside what it is that we are attempting to portray outwardly.
Yeah.
So that was a wake up call for me because I thought, wow, if I could be doing this and and clearly I'm doing it well, right? Money's
Yeah.
raining down,
Dollar
I'm
dollar
feeling,
bills.
yes, it's raining but how could I be doing this and doing it at a high level and feel so empty?
Right. Yeah. So one of the passage or the excerpts from your book that I want to read because I think it's so relatable and also so tragic. It says there's no harder pill to swallow than realizing you've built a life not based on what you truly desire, but on social conditioning, religious indoctrination, mommy culture, and capitalism. And I think this is sort of what you're talking about, right? It's like it's a performance based thing. Like we live the life that we think we're supposed to live, that we think other people want us to live, or that some sort of rule or religion or whatever has prescribed for us. But it sounds like you had experiences in your life, maybe your divorce, maybe other things compounding on that as well, that sort of like, it was almost like a breakthrough for you. Is that accurate to say?
Absolutely. Just the understanding that I have a choice. I can choose
Yes.
to do things differently. It sounds so simple, but it's so profound because a lot of us do follow this prescribed path. I
Right.
did the things. I went to college, I graduated, I moved, I started working in the industry in which I studied. I found a man, he was nice. I married him. I got pregnant. We bought a house. We had a baby. All of these things, and I was on the path. And
Right.
then it came tumbling down, and I realized, is this ever what I really wanted in the first place?
Why? So your book is written for driven women specifically. What is it about driven women that made you, what is unique about them that made you want to actually speak to them, or to us, I should say?
Yeah, right? Because I'm speaking to myself, you know?
Absolutely.
I'm speaking to
Yes.
myself and knowing that there are other women in the same boat because driven women are ambitious
Yes.
and go-getting and go out and grab life rather than wait for it to happen to us. And so there was a dissonance between, wait, I feel so, I'm a mover, I feel so great. I want to take what I want out of life, but also I'm not even really sure what I want out of life. And how
Yes.
can I resolve that? And so I think that driven women in particular have an inner motivation that other women may not have. Right, we are driven to get to where we want to go. So I just started thinking about, what if we applied that same drive to understanding ourselves and really uncovering what it is that we really desire for our lives.
So I know you mentioned you had gone through a divorce, and this maybe was sort of the impetus for seeing movement as like a healing mechanism. How did you start, like in a practical sense? What did you start doing?
Well, and I talk about this in the book. I got this spirited feeling to just move, and I put on music, and my room was dark, and I just allowed myself to move in whatever way came through me. I did several different things. I was rolling around on the floor at one point. I was up and I was twerking at one point. I was doing African dance. I was breathing. I was just heaving almost at some point, and it was so cathartic. And I wasn't doing any steps or doing any TikTok dances or doing anything that I had ever seen before. I was just open to what was taking place. And I had never felt that sense of release before. I cried, I laughed. I remember just laying on the floor in my room after moving and realizing like almost an hour had passed and so much had moved through. I can't describe it. I felt almost weightless.
You mentioned, your background in dance. You've danced with Beyoncé. You've been an exotic dancer. All this background in dance. Um, but you talk about in your book sort of the connection between, um, well, I think in your book it's actually the connection between pleasure and confidence. So, but when you were doing all that dancing and you were doing it very well, like, did you feel like you had issues with confidence, or what was going on with you at that time?
I got confidence from being able to do things well. I was a great dancer. I was a great performing artist, but the confidence I have now comes from knowing exactly who I am.
Mm.
And that's completely different from the
Yes.
confidence that I got for being great at what I did, for being a great teacher, being a great dancer, being a great friend, all of these external things. Now my confidence comes from knowing exactly who I am in this world.
I think when I hear the word pleasure, maybe it's just because I have a dirty mind, but I automatically think sexual pleasure, right? But I think you mentioned in your book, like, pleasure comes in so many forms. my husband always makes fun of me because it's like the first sip of coffee is so good. And I take that first sip in the morning and it's like, oh, this is so good. It brings me so much joy. So I think you talk about in your book, like, it's not just sexual pleasure. It's pleasure in so many different ways. It's all the things that you find joy in, right?
Yes, and to your point, I had reservation about even naming the book Pleasure Principles because I was
Okay.
thinking, oh, people are going to think I'm going to talk about sex and all of this other stuff. And sex is great. And I do talk about it a little bit in the book. However, the awareness of what actually brings you joy and clients that I work closely with, I have them do an exercise in which they write out all of the small joys and pleasures. And
Yeah.
sometimes it is that small sip of coffee, or it's a favorite blanket, or it's a piece of music, or
Yeah.
there are so many things. But the disheartening part about that, Holly, is that more often than not, they don't know where to start.
Mhm.
I've never thought about it. I've never
Yeah.
thought about, no one's ever asked me. I've never thought about the things that make me happy on a day-to-day basis.
Tell us more about like this moving with feminine intention. What does that even mean? How do you know if you're doing that? Like, unpack that for us.
It is quite simple, and men can do it too because we both
Okay.
have a balance of masculine and feminine energy.
Yes.
So I want to make it clear that this practice is not just for women, but it involves three different elements. And the first of those is exploration. We're moving to explore, not to do any particular thing, which is different from how a lot of people approach movement as exercise, a certain number of reps, or we're going
Yeah.
to run a certain distance, or we're going to do these certain yoga poses. Moving with feminine intention and beginning to explore just means that you're in observance of what's happening.
Yeah.
There's nothing to actually do. You might notice, oh, when I roll my head like this, oh, it makes a lot of sounds. Maybe I should roll my head like that when I get out of bed in the morning. No, it's just about observing yourself.
Yeah.
And so the second element is sensation. And that is, how do you perceive through your senses when you're moving? Is there a certain part of your body that you tend to gravitate towards? Um, what aromas are you smelling while you're moving? Like the whole sensory experience. Where
Okay.
do your eyes tend to land? Do you like to move to music? Do you like to move to silence? Just getting curious about those things. And the third element is flow. And that is letting movement unfold versus doing predetermined steps.
Okay.
Just letting the movement unfold. I'm doing this and then I'm doing that and then I'm doing this and then I'm doing that, and not having it to look a certain way.
Hmm.
And you
Okay.
will feel crazy. Let me say that. If you are not used to moving in this way, you will likely feel crazy and you will feel
Okay.
like you look silly,
Yeah.
and those are things to be expected. But I just want to encourage anyone listening, just give it a try. No one's recording you. We're not putting you on the
Yeah.
internet or anything. This
Right.
is completely for you and for you to develop a practice that feels good. So if you can just push past those initial moments of, oh gosh, I look ridiculous. I promise you, you'll find something on the other side.
Okay. So I think you said it's so simple, but you didn't say it was easy, right? Because I'm just thinking of myself right now. My day starts at 5 a.m. and it is like the second my feet hit the floor beside my bed, it is scheduled, it is regimented, it feels like a sprint until basically when I get home at 9 o'clock at night. So hearing you talk about doing these things and like observing, I'm thinking in my head, oh my gosh, you mean to tell me I should take 30 seconds and like observe? Like, that to me seems hard, like, so when in your work with women, um, have you found it to be challenging where it's like you really need to be like, no, just take a moment, it's worth it? Like, is it hard for them to sort of adopt this practice?
Yes, absolutely. Because, like you said, there's a schedule and I have things to do. And what is all this exploration going to get me? It's hard to
Yeah.
see a tangible result,
Right.
right? When you're a woman
Yes.
in business in particular, it's like, okay, what is the ROI on this? What am
Yes.
I
What are
getting
the
here?
KPIs? What's the ROI? What's the result? What's the goal?
Right, right.
Yes.
And so it's a different way of thinking.
God.
But I found that, I mean, I do a practice in the morning that's 6 minutes,
Okay.
and it really does not take long. But what it does is, one, it reinforces the message that I am the most important person and that
Oh,
I need some time that is not before I meet the world and whatever that looks like, I
right.
need to meet myself. And
Yes.
so those 6 minutes allow me to do that. And
Yes.
beyond that, it also cultivates the ability to be present in the rest of my day.
Yes.
Because often, if as soon as your feet hit the ground, you're moving from thing to thing to thing, and the world is pulling you in a bunch of different directions, you don't ever fully arrive anywhere
Right.
because
Yes.
there's always a next thing.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
it is a beautiful practice because you will find that your interactions are different when you are fully present and when you've given yourself that time as a gift and when you've established that your time is important. It's decreased resentment for sure. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but sometimes I feel very resentful when I'm just in service to my calendar and everyone has
Yes.
demands on my time and there's nothing left for me. And so just that little 6 minutes really helps to mitigate that.
Yes. That's so, I mean, I've never really thought about it in those terms. Like, I've never thought about it as resentment, but oh my gosh, so many times I will wake up thinking, okay, I know I have, a 30-minute window here, and I'll check my calendar because, of course, I live and die by my calendar. And someone has put something in those 30 minutes, and it's like, "Ugh," now I don't have that 30-minute window. Now I mean, my assistant's like, okay, when are you going to go to the bathroom during the day? I'm like, yeah, there is no time for that. So that is so true that it does sort of create this sense of resentment. And I love what you said. Before I meet the world, I have to meet myself. Like, oh my gosh, I love it. That's such words to live by for sure. Um, so one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you is because, I'm a divorce lawyer, as you know, and our firm is niched down to representing business owners and professionals, which statistically happens to be more men. So I've represented probably more men than women as a divorce lawyer. And I just know through my almost 20 years of doing that, I would say like the most common sort of complaint that I hear from the men that are now embarking on a divorce is they were unhappy or unsatisfied with the physical intimacy, with the sex life. And I am always shocked at how many sexless marriages there are out there. So, but I mean, I'm almost ashamed to say it at this point. Until I read your book and until we spoke, I really kind of put that, I don't know. I kind of was like, okay, wives, like step it up. You got to step up your game here. Never really going deeper into maybe what is causing that. Why is this an issue? So, what would you say to that issue? What would you tell the women they should be doing? Maybe, is there something the men can do? Like, can you speak to that?
I think for women, it's important, like that 6 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Taking time for self, because then otherwise, sex becomes another demand on you, another
Right.
demand of time, of your body, and if you don't feel that you've given yourself anything, it is hard to show up for a partner in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
As far as
Absolutely.
men, wash a dish or something. Wash a dish, you know, be wash a dish, do some yard work. There's
Yes.
actually a study, in the Sexual Research Journal that highlights the correlation between domestic duties and women's, libido and desire.
Oh,
And what they found was that when men take up more of that, and not just chores, right? But
yeah.
as women, we're often responsible. We have such a a load as far as not only working outside of the home, definitely with the children,
Right.
but knowing things, knowing
Yeah.
when appointments are, knowing when birthdays are, being able to send gifts when someone got married, all of these things that we keep track of that we're responsible for. And you don't want to be having sex when you have so much up there and you're
Yes.
responsible for so much. So a beautiful act is when a partner can take some of that off of your plate.
Right.
And what this study found was that I'm joking about wash a dish, but it helped.
Joking,
Women
but
were,
not joking.
yeah, joking, but not
Yeah.
joking. So I would say lightening the load.
Yeah.
And then a woman can start to remember because her mind isn't boggled with who has to go to practice and what's for dinner and when are the cleaning people
Right.
coming and when did we send your mother-in-law a gift and all
Yeah.
of these things. Then she can remember, wait a minute, I'm sexy. And
Right.
I want to remember. I want to tap back into that part of who I am, but when there's so many things layered on top of that, it
Yeah.
gets hard.
Yeah. The mental load. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that you said when we were talking, though, that I do think is important and helpful to women is you mentioned, like, yes, men can wash a dish. They can take some of that mental and physical load off, but ultimately the responsibility is with women, right?
Yes, because your
Yeah.
sexuality is yours,
Right.
and it doesn't only exist in relation to a partner.
Yeah.
And it took me some time to understand that. I always thought of sex as something that as a demonstration
Mm.
of love, of commitment, of something to a partner. But once I began to take ownership of my sexuality and start to become curious about what that meant and how I wanted to feel in my own body and what made me feel sexy and what I found to be enticing and what put me in a sensual mood, then I started to understand, wait a minute, this is a whole thing that exists for me and I choose to share it, you
Right.
know, with
Yeah.
my husband is something that we share
Right.
in, but it belongs to me. And
Yeah.
so ultimately it's my job to tend to that part of my being.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true. And I think a lot of times maybe, you know, we use as a scapegoat, like maybe we haven't realized that fully that it is within ourselves and it's for us and it is our own and then we share it like you said. So maybe the first part of it, or maybe there's a sector of people out there that like haven't realized that yet. But I think maybe there's another sector out there that it's like maybe it's an excuse, to say like, oh, put it on the other person. So I think the concept, I mean, I kind of try to live my life with like 100% personal responsibility. So that's probably why this resonates with me. But like the concept that like, no, we are actually responsible for it ourselves and we are responsible for our own sexuality and what brings us joy and pleasure and all that ourselves. And then we can share that. I love that. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, no one tells us that, Holly. I mean, think
Nobody
about it.
does. Well, Lily, you're
We
telling
thought
people now.
true
Thank God.
indeed. True indeed. Think about it. It's like, well, they took my
It's
virginity, or I
true.
gave it up, or all of these
Yes.
phrases that are in our lexicon that just reinforce
Right.
that thought that it is just something to be given or taken and it's never really ours.
I firmly believe that like every day is a chance to show up as a better version of yourself than the day before. But also part of my story, part of the mission of my firm is like sort of embracing those really dark times because that's where you are literally made. Like that's what creates, shapes, and molds your character, your person, your soul. So I do think there is such value in those dark times. And if we're always sort of covering them up, not sharing them, not communicating them, not really getting in touch with them, then we sort of lose the value of like that sort of next phase that is bright and shiny and amazing, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And be the
Yeah.
friend that asks, "How are you?" and really gives space for someone to give an honest answer.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
always go through life, "How are you?" "Oh, I'm fine, girl, I'm fine.
Right.
I'm good." And we
Yeah.
give these short little blips, and we need to start being okay with saying, "Oh, this isn't the best day," or, "Oh,
Mhm.
I'm feeling a little heavy right now," or just creating space where people feel safe and comfortable enough to
Right.
share what's really going on with them to the degree that they want to.
Lily, this has been such a pleasure. You gave me like several aha moments today. So okay, your book is Pleasure Principles for Driven Women, but more than just writing this book, you also do other things. If somebody wants to learn more about your work, buy your book, work with you personally, like how should they reach out to you? Where should they go?
Well, everything is on my website, lilyshepardmoves.com. There you can join my community. You can purchase the book. You can learn more about my one-to-one work with women. So everything is there. You can also connect with me on social. Lily Shepard Moves on Instagram and Facebook, and Lily Shepard on LinkedIn. I'm in all the places. I try
You're
to
in
be in
all
all
the
the places.
places. Okay.
Yes, but I love to connect and hear the stories of fellow driven women who are working through this life and trying to
Yeah.
to find joy and pleasure and embody it. So I would
Yeah.
love to hear from you.
Awesome. Yes. And thank you for your work on behalf of driven women. Like, we definitely need something like this. I mean, what you said earlier is so true. Like, nobody tells us these things. You're the only person I've ever met that is doing this kind of work, maybe because I'm not in that world. But I mean, I think it's somewhat rare. It's definitely not in the circles that I'm in where, people are talking about this. And so, on behalf of all driven women, we thank you and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Holly. This was so
Yes.
much fun.
This was fun. Thanks for being here. So, I still have more to say. And I think it's only fitting on Valentine's Day that my closing remarks are regarding love. And I think my biggest takeaway, not only from that conversation with Lily just now, but also almost 20 years as a divorce lawyer and my own personal life experiences, is love, the best love really starts with yourself. Not just loving yourself, but also really being complete by yourself, within yourself. And then once you're a whole person on the inside and once you're complete within yourself, then and only then can you bring in somebody else who complements you. But that person can never be the thing that completes you. You really have to be that all on your own. And once you bring in that person that complements you, I think that is the best kind of love. And that person should help you show up as the best version of yourself and help you thrive in your life. And that's where the magic is. Two more things. Like, subscribe, comment, do all the things, but also never forget you were made for more.